Welcome to Equine Guelph's Research Radio, brought to you by SSG Gloves. I'm Norm Borg, and our guest this week is Guelph veterinary student Kelsey Spence. Kelsey's doing some great work researching contagious diseases, and she joins us right after this word from SSG Gloves. Go with the glove used by champions. The SSG Digital is the ultimate in feel, grip, breathability, and durability. The digital pattern increases grip and wear, and it's machine washable. See your SSG dealer for details. Kelsey Spence, welcome to Research Radio.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, tell us about your studies. The genesis of your studies into infectious diseases goes all the way back, can be focused on a cutting show that took place in Utah. It sort of inspired your research into this area. Tell us about it.
That's right. So back in 2011, I believe, it was in Utah, and there was a horse infected with the equine herpes virus 1. So at this show, you had the single horse with multiple horses there. Once the show was over, they all went back to their individual home facilities all over the States as well as Western Canada. And in this situation, we had a widespread spread of this disease back to these provinces.
That inspired you to do some studies of your own into this problem. You've already conducted one study, but you're also working on another one as we speak. Tell us about that.
That's right. So our main premise of the research was facilitated by the fact that horses do travel frequently to attend these shows, events, or races, or any other reason. So for our current study, it's been underway for a few months now, and it follows the same concept of our last study. So we are interested in focusing on the contacts over a period of time rather than the single show that took place in examples such as Utah. So we're interested in how horses continue to travel. So they don't just stop at the one show. They'll go to multiple places over a long period of time. And as horses travel throughout the summer, we can visualize how contacts form and then predict what the spread of disease could look like as a result of these contacts.
I want to go back to that first study you did because you used a metric to calculate a very frightening figure in tracing the source of an outbreak of, say, whether it's EHV1 or whatever the case may be. Tell us what you found and how a single horse can infect so many.
Exactly. So it does sound frightening, and it's really an eye-opener once you either have a number or a picture to this concept. So our idea was to think about how horses come together at the single show, and after that show is over, they go back to their home facilities, so other horses are permanently stable there. So for our pilot study last summer, we collected information from 55 horses attending a 2-day dressage show. So once we added up all of the horses that attended the show, plus all of the horses at each of those home facilities when they went home, we got the astonishing number of 779 potential contacts.
Now, how did you come to that? How did you come to that metric?
So there was 55 horses that were at the show, and then we asked about the number of horses that were permanently stabled at the home facility. So there was 38 home facilities from which these 55 horses came from. So we include all of the horses that are permanently stabled at each of those 38 facilities. So some of those can have horses, so 80 plus horses, and some of them are small, so just backyard horses where there's only 1 or 2 horses on the facility. But it does add up.
And right now you're tracking the entire path via the horse show season, are you not?
That's right. So we started collecting movements in May. So between May and November, we'll be collecting these sort of movement data where we have people participating and telling us whether or not their horses left the home facility during the month, and if they did, where did they go? So in this way, we can get sort of a timeline of what these patterns look like during the season.
Now, tell me about the work that you've been doing with Dr. Scott Weiss, or under his tutelage, I understand, because there are some very common sense steps which tend to sometimes go over our heads when we're looking at trying to prevent the spread of diseases. Tell us about that.
That's right, and they are pretty common sense, but I know a lot of times horse people are quite busy and there's some things that we can do if we just think about the overall message of biosecurity practices, and that's reducing the exposure of your horses to diseases by either not sharing equipment or keeping your horse home if they're showing signs of being ill. We can reduce the susceptibility of these horses to disease, so making sure that they're happy and healthy and they're not placed in high stress situations for long periods of time, because this can affect their immune system, or increasing the resistance to disease. And this is usually done by vaccinations, which can be developed a correct schedule with your vet.
Now, there is human to horse transmission of diseases, and as much as we want people to get involved in our specific equine sports, there's a danger that too much exposure can be a problem. Tell us about how ways to avoid, without taking the human equation out. We want the fans there, but how things that people can do if they're attending a horse show or they're in the paddock, whatever the case may be, to avoid being carriers, as it were.
That's right, and that's a great point, that humans can act as a mechanism to spread diseases from one horse to another through germs on our hands or our clothes. So when we're at a show, we can take care to wash our hands frequently, change our clothes once we're entering the barn and then going back home, and as well maybe put up some barriers between yourself and the horse if you're at a show, so you're not kind of going between stalls and petting horses. So this can be a way to transmit some diseases that can stay on your hands and then give to another horse.
And also avoiding nose-to-nose contact, I understand, is a good way to prevent.
That's right. And a lot of ways are at different shows are being used for this. So, divided stalls where horses can't really reach each other. That's one of the ways that we can prevent this nose-to-nose contact between horses.
That would be important because that is a major means of communication between horses, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's a lot of ways that diseases can spread, unfortunately, between the nose-to-nose contact.
When will your study be complete? You're working on it through the show season.
That's right. So we're collecting movement data until November, and then after that we'll be using computer simulation models to estimate the potential for an epidemic using the data that we collected.
Sounds fascinating, and it's very important work. I want to thank you for being with us here on Research Radio, Kelsey Spence.
Well, thank you.